Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Late Night Happy Hour. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky joining you on Friday night. And as we always like to point out on Friday night,
hey,
Bernie.
Yeah.
Bernie can get into Friday. We can get into Friday. I had a great conversation earlier today with Steve Mason. You know him and you love him from 710 ESPN, our former colleague there. And really no reason, Andy, to delay. So let's just get right into it. I talked about TV. We talked Rams. We talked Dodgers and
award season,
all kinds of
candle
stuff.
making, painting, whole bunch of stuff. Mace, as it turns out, has some interesting history that you and I didn't even know about, and we've known him for a long time.
That's exactly right. So here we go, our conversation with 710 ESPN, Steve Mason. Hey, Steve Mason, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Hey, good, guys. How are you?
Can't
Man,
complain.
we miss you. We miss you.
I miss you guys, too. I miss you on the station. I miss working with you. I always wonder what you kids are up to.
Have you been looking under a bridge? you can find us there.
Down by the river, like Chris Farley.
Every time he passes one of those homeless encampments, he just wonders if it's us.
Is there a Kamenetzky there?
I don't check, but I wonder.
No.
Keep it. That's fair. You look well. You look vaccinated. How's that going for you?
I got my first vaccination. I got it last Saturday. And I was at the pharmacy picking up a prescription on Saturday night. And I said, hey, is it true that you guys have extra vaccines sometimes at the end of the day? And they said, yes. Do you want one? And so me and Juan both got our vaccines. There were 8 of them left over, and they have to destroy them or throw them away if nobody gets them. So they actually went on the loudspeaker in the pharmacy and said, if you don't have your vaccine yet, we have extras. So I felt like I was a little sensitive about getting it. I'm not really at the age where you're supposed to get it, but it was going to go to waste. So I thought, get it.
You're closer to the age than you'd like to admit.
Oh, no, I've got years.
That's the story that you like to tell.
What's it like to be the
real
first
one
millennial vaccinated, Mace?
Right, exactly. The first Gen Z to qualify for vaccination. Exactly. So this is the story you tell. Is the real one where you elbow old people and teachers out of the way because you're a very important radio host?
No, it's like Black Friday going for the vaccines, people over and stuff. No, it was really pretty calm, but I was really excited about it. And once I get the second one, I keep saying I'm going to live my best life. I mean, I'm going to go to Dodger games, and I'm going to go to a Lakers game, and we're going to go to Costa Rica, hopefully go to Costa Rica in early April. Cause I love to get out of the country when I can. Just hoping they let me back in.
I was going to say, like, have you actually been keeping track of how it's going over in Costa Rica and like the viability of traveling over there and stuff like that?
Well, it's viable. I mean, you can make reservations, you can get the flight, you can get the hotel. I mean, knowing that we're covered, we're vaccinated, I'm not so worried about it, right? I'm not going to get it. We're not going to get it. So I think it's okay to travel.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I always whether or not they'll let you back in.
Correct. Whether or not that's the big issue. But I hope whoever is letting people back in is a fan.
Now, I saw in a tweet that you sent out about today's show, Mason and Ireland on 710. You had a video announcement about some of the topics, but in the background was 2 paintings.
Right, because let's be honest, nobody cares what you're talking about in the show.
Right.
This is what matters. This is the shit people care about.
And we see behind you there are 2 paintings that you made. I would say similar in presentation. Can you explain to us exactly what these are? This period that you're going through right now as a painter?
Yeah, so this actually was in the 90s, and I was hardcore into my yoga practice and studying yoga. So if you look at the colors, those are the colors of the chakras. It goes red, yellow, green for the heart chakra, blue for the throat chakra, purple is the third eye center, and then white is, the ultimate color that you get through the top of your head. So I did 2 variations. I did one that is very crisp on the right, where it's, a very crisp shape of a person. You can see it's the shape of a person. The other one I did sort of more I don't know, what would you say, impressionistic way?
Abstract.
Abstract way, yeah. So there are two variations, one really sharp and one really abstract, but they're both the same thing.
Who are
So
your
now
great influences? Are you a Bob Ross kind of guy? Picasso?
I think I'm very Van Gogh. There's another painting in the house that looks like it is a direct, like low end Van Gogh ripoff. But I think he was probably, and he painted the same stuff over and over again too. I've been to the Van Gogh Museum in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and he just painted the same thing over and over again. He must have painted. Talk about a guy who loves himself. He must have painted 100 self portraits.
And that was,
and they think
I was about to say, is this the next thing? Like, was that your inspiration? Is like you're now just going to fill your house with Steve's?
With Mason Originals? No, I think my painting career has come to an end. I went through a big phase. I went through like 4 years where I was painting like virtually every day. And there's stuff out in the garage that I painted. Only 3 of them made the house. One only allows 3 of them to be in the house. The rest of them are stacked up in the garage.
So are the 2 that we saw, are they self-portraits?
It's a good question.
They look like self-portraits. They look like they could be a silhouette.
Yeah, well, that's what they're meant to be. They're meant to be a silhouette. Now, is that me?
Like there's your butt.
Yeah, no, you can see
Steve Mason butt.
You can see the one leg crossed, and you can see the arm in sort of prayer position. So yeah, I guess you could say those.
But it also, though, Mace, it looks like it could be just a self-portrait of your face and profile.
Oh, well, the nose. See the nose?
That is not me. In profile. And now I see what you're talking about. That's
right. But I think that's what makes the art so deep, Mace. I mean, like, first of all, it's so deep you didn't even discover it until just now. Right. But also, like,
never unsee it.
No, right, I can't unsee it at all.
I'm sorry I ruined this for you.
Well, you know what, though, art is meant to be open. And you know what, I shouldn't have even described it. I should have asked you to give me your impressions of it instead of explaining what.
Well, then we just would have opened with Steve. It is so brave of you to feature your nose in that way because we know it's such a sensitive topic. The other thing I like, with those paintings, let's compare it to, say, the top. Have you been following Top Shot? You seem like the kind of person who'd be following Top Shot.
Yes, I have. Weird video baseball.
The digital keepsakes for the NBA, like the LeBron $200,000 digital highlight versus the Steve Mason Chakra series. Which do you think collectors value more?
Well, I mean, I don't know what those Top Shot things are going to be worth ultimately. But I know my paintings. I've gotten several offers. They said, "Can we buy a print?" So I think I could probably make money selling prints of my paintings. I don't understand the Top Shot thing. I mean, I would be skeptical about investing in a little video clip of LeBron that's available on YouTube.
I so don't get this at all.
I get what it is. I'm like you. I feel like the market for but look, baseball cards were a market for a while because people decided they had value. I just don't understand. I think at some point people are gonna the value of these things, if people just decide they don't care, crashes. That's the part that makes me wonder.
Well, the thing is, it makes it, because the NBA and the NBAPA are both behind it, it makes it more likely to stay a viable market, I think, because they're making money off of it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's just trendy right now though too. So it's like, it's Bitcoiny, it's GameStop-y.
Do not confuse it. I'm not Bitcoin and the Top Shots. People do not understand Bitcoin. I own a fair amount of Bitcoin, and it's currency. It's hard money. That's different than a trade.
It's sort of currency. It's I mean, we don't have to get into it, but I actually am thinking about putting a little bit of money into Bitcoin. But what I mean by that is it's blockchain, it's digital, it's not something you physically hold like a baseball card. It's a tradable thing, but it's not so. But it has a lot of those qualities if you understand sort of the digital part of it. I don't know how long that market lasts, and I'm not getting myself. I'm like I said, I'll invest in Bitcoin. I think I'm going to invest in Bitcoin. I'm not going to invest in Top Shot. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know, but that just doesn't seem.
Yeah, I invested in baseball cards. I've got 500 Frank Thomas rookie cards in the garage that are supposed to be worth $60 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping we reach a time when I will be able to pay for things in Frank Thomas rookie cards.
Is Juan more likely to let those into the house or more paintings?
Not coming in the house.
I got to tell you, Mace, between those cards and the art, you really need to be just specifically insuring your garage. Like there's a lot going on in there. It's close to the Louvre, if I do say so myself.
Last question on this before we move on. You described your painting phase. You strike me, because we've known you for a long time now, as a phase guy.
Oh,
What what are some of your other, like, what are like the greatest phases, or even like the ones that you look back on and say, I'm not sure what I was thinking there?
This is the best. So first of all, I do it a lot with food. Like there was a day I ate a Reuben sandwich every single day for 6 months.
Why?
Because there were 20 straight donut nights. Because I sought like order in my life, and eating the same thing every day was helpful in that. This is the worst phase though. So I went through a candle making phase.
Nice.
And I would buy the wax thing. You'd put layers in, like I'm put some red wax and then some green wax, and you'd put the layers in it, and you put like dried flowers, and I went through a candle making phase. It was absolutely ridiculous. Thank God.
How long did that last?
1 year, everybody in my family got a handmade candle for Christmas, and you never see those sitting around.
It would explain a lot of the dysfunction in your family.
Yeah.
Like these are the gifts people are receiving. This is how you're expressing love with these candles.
Yeah, the candle phase, that was something.
How did it end? Like, did you just wake up one day and said, I'm done making candles and I'm on to
moving on to
Rubens? How did that go?
That's the thing. Like, I'll drop it, and I will never go back to it. Like, I will never paint again. I painted like for 3 years, and then I dropped.
That's a shame.
Candle making 6 months. Shame.
I want to see you paint the other half of your head.
Where's the Getty when you need him? Yeah. So, and I dropped things like when I was a little kid, we played racquetball every day for an entire summer. And I mean, we played from dawn to dusk, and then school started and I never played racquetball again. It was just like the summer of racquetball. It was a phase and it ended.
Racquetball was really big though, like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Absolutely.
Like it was huge.
When you were in your 20s or 30s.
Yeah, right. When I was in my 20s or 30s. Thank you. Yeah. By the way, I'm at that age where I had to turn to Juan today and say, now, so my birthday's coming up. Am I going to be 55 or 56?
I do that a lot.
I couldn't do the math in my head. It's obviously 55. No, it's obviously 56. It's 21. But yeah, I guess I'm at the point where I have to ask somebody to even know what year it is in my birthday.
Again, Mace, you're closer to that vaccine cutoff than you really want to admit.
Are you how old you are?
So be honest. When you got to the front of that line, we're like, "Oh, sir, you're here for your vaccine appointment, aren't you?" You're like, "No,
no, I'm here scrounging for extras."
I'm far too young, ma'am.
Give me all 8. I want to be really safe.
I didn't get carded, which was good.
Nice. That is nice. You heard that story, by the way, didn't you? Of course, it's in Florida, of those 2 women, I want to say like in their 30s, who dressed up as grannies to get the vaccine. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That is amazing.
I mean, everybody's waiting for it. And, today they said, they made an announcement, I guess the state, that outdoor sporting events, they're going to allow fans this year, maybe up to 20%, which is like fantastic news. People are going to get to be at Dodger Stadium when they actually unveil the World Series banner. Like all that stuff is going on. It is getting better. I'm getting more optimistic every day.
Well, that's actually, we were going to ask you about the Dodgers, just so this is a good way to seg into it as any, and like the idea of you actually being there to watch them. Like how much, to begin, like, how much do you think this team, because this is the psychology of this group that's been together for a long time, I think has been fascinating to watch in terms of that period where they couldn't get over the hump for a variety of different reasons, some self-inflicted, some, as it turned out, were Astros inflicted and the cheating and all that stuff. They finally gotten over this hump. How freeing do you think it's actually going to be in terms of the future of this team and what they can accomplish moving forward? Just not having that to contend with anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think of guys like Kershaw, who has dealt with that monkey on his back for the last, 10 years, really. They've won 8 straight division titles. I think this would be number 9. Do I have that right? I think this would be number 9. They finally got World Series pressure off of them. And I think they're going to play a lot more free, a lot looser. I don't think the world is going to be on their shoulders this time around. They're obviously unbelievably talented. And signing Trevor Bauer, who, as your number 3 starter, having the reigning Cy Young Award winner is just incredible. So much depth on that team.
Right.
I think, and so 162 games, I think they're going to win 100. But it still comes down to those last 11. The last 11 are the really tough wins that you got to come up with. And there's no guarantee. The team with the most talent doesn't always win, as we've seen. So there will be pressure, but it will not be like it was this past year.
Look, and we've talked to I think it was Jorge Castillo who pointed out that, like, these guys want not so much to prove that last year was legit. Oh, like, it's not like anybody didn't think they were a really good team. They want the stuff. They want to win in a year where you can do all the fun things.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure this out, and you can tell me if I'm right. Like a weakness. If you were going to really pick nits on this team, you can say back into the bullpen, you're not sure who closes games. Okay, that doesn't really matter into the playoffs. And even now we've learned in the playoffs that doesn't really matter either, because that can change from game to game. It could be Jansen, it could be Urias, it could be Dustin May, it could be anybody. The only other thing I could come up with is they feel slightly less versatile in their utility stuff, because, like, with Jock gone and Kike gone, now, like, you need Chris Taylor to be able to play more positions better, or, like, hit a little more.
Play second base if Gavin Lux isn't ready, and then
right.
To plug in at third base or in left field or any of those other places you would put Chris Taylor. So yeah, they're short on what I would call positionality.
So is that like, that's got to be the most first world problem that you could ever come up with for a baseball team, where, like, your utility left fielder might not be up to snuff. Yeah. Like, if that's the worst thing you can find, this is an excellent baseball team.
Yeah, it is great, because you really are picking nits at this point, because that is an unbelievably talented team. That's the best Dodgers team. I mean, with the addition of Bauer, that's got to be the best Dodgers team in terms of talent that we've seen in our lifetimes.
It's pretty remarkable. They're stacked as hell.
I'm sorry. How much do you think the Padres can push them? Because for my own entertainment, I hope the answer is a lot, because I would like this season to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I love what the Padres did. Fernando Tatis Jr. is, budding superstar, 4th in MVP voting last year. I mean, he's the real deal. Machado sort of woke up down there, and he's now part of a dynamic, probably the best double play combination in all of baseball, at least in terms of offense. And you go out and you add Yu Darvish, who we all laugh about here in Los Angeles, who had a really good year with the Cubs last year. Blake Snell, who we saw in the World Series. They still have Dinelson Lamet. They still have Chris Paddock. They've got depth in their rotation too. So I think they can push us a little bit. I mean, I would imagine this is probably – it's not going to be a runaway division. They're going to play 17 times. I would imagine the series are going to get very chippy. In the end, I think the Dodgers probably win the division by 5 or 6 games, but I think they're going to push us.
Well, I mean – I'm not particularly concerned about this team in terms of complacency, but if you were at all, I'd say it's an advantage that you've got a team in your division that actually, in the back of your head, maybe they're not as good as us, but they're not that far off, just to keep things interesting over the course of 162 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in the conversation. I mean, if I was to say who is the second most talented team in the National League, I would say it is the Padres.
I don't think it's close. I mean, who else could it be?
goes Braves, and then it goes
Atlanta maybe.
Mets are actually going to be really good. But
I mean, you follow this stuff way closer than I do, in part because you're in the most ridiculous fantasy league ever invented. I played that thing for a year, and I'm like, this is too much. This is stupid. The rules are ridiculous, and the level of depth that you have to get into to play in this league is absurd, and it's not for me.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But aren't you a little worried about the Mets and their the health of their pitching?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, Syndergaard is a question mark sometimes. DeGrom can be a question mark sometimes. But they added Stroman. They've got arms that extend that rotation a little bit more. I think the Mets are going to be pretty damn good. I think they'll win the East. I think the Braves will win the Central. I think the Dodgers will win the West. I think the Padres will be a wild card, and maybe the
Braves are moving. Aren't the Braves in the East?
Braves are.
Did they move?
Yeah. What am I thinking? No, I think they're.
No. They were in the NL East in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they are.
Pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
I probably should have let that go. Sorry about that.
I'm Googling as we speak. Yeah, the Braves are in the East. You're right.
How about that? Score one for me.
Yes,
I have a lot of time to I have a lot of time to research these things when I, under the bridge as I'm looking for cans
and a hotspot to actually get some internet.
You'd be surprised how much baseball we talk under the bridge. It really passes the time.
There's probably a good fantasy league down there.
So you're going when they open up Dodger Stadium. Whenever they do that, you're going to be there, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
All right. Yeah. So socially distanced, I have an idea of what you can do for the seats next to you.
Okay.
Don't get rid of the cutouts. Bring cutouts of yourself and put 3 cutouts of yourself around you. So there's real Steve in the middle of all the cardboard Steves. I think that would be
Here's 2 of them right here.
Right.
Oh, there's 2 of them. It's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good idea.
2 cutouts right there, plus the one in the the other one in the house.
I could have more made.
There you go. It's your own version of the Ramily, at Dodger Stadium, because you own that section, Mace. Let's be honest.
By the way, new stadium. That means probably going to be in SoFi this year.
And a new Ramily.
I had a tour of it from Kevin Demoff, about 3-4 months ago. He took us through all socially distanced and all that stuff. And I'm telling you, that place is. I've never seen a stadium like that. Never. It is going to absolutely blow people away when they get inside of it. And I've got my section is now, I'll say it here. I don't want everybody to know, but my section is pretty damn good. And I probably won't see a lot of my Ramily friends that I used to see.
Ooh la la!
Yeah, I know.
You are leaving the old Ramily for the new Ramily, and will you if you pass one of them in the hallways or something, the concourse, will you acknowledge them, or will you thumb your nose at them because they have shittier seats than you?
No, I mean my seats are real. Ireland saw my seats. He was like, "Oh, damn, you really went all in on this thing." And I'm not a spendy guy. I don't live. You guys have been to my house. I don't live in the fanciest house in the world, like John Ireland. And this was one thing that I felt like I really wanted to go big on, and so I went big on it. I got really good seats, and I finally get to see a game from at SoFi Stadium from those seats this coming year, especially now with this new health advisory and the fact that there's going to be maybe enough vaccine for every American by the end of May.
Well, not if people like you keep jumping in and taking them early. Fun fact about Steve, though, he paid for his season tickets entirely in Frank Thomas rookie cards.
And Bitcoin.
And leftover vaccine that he palmed. Passed along on the open market.
So right before they threw those away, where you're like, no, I'll take them.
I'll totally take them. Exactly.
Mace is walking. If you ever see Mace outside like a Rite Aid with a big coat,
Black market.
You like a vaccine?
People are, though. A lot of people are doing that. They're like calling the pharmacy at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and hoping that they've got extras. People are
Moderna. I got the Moderna. Wait. You want Johnson Johnson? You want shot one? You shot two. What do you got? I got some Pfizer here. I got some Pfizer. You want some Pfizer? I got the Pfizer.
Yeah. You guys don't have your.
No,
not yet. No, we have not qualified yet, age wise, which is I guess a good thing.
No, it is a good thing, actually.
Are you feeling good about the team that you're actually going to be seeing in SoFi? There's been a lot happening.
I am really excited. I mean, I was a relentless Jared Goff supporter until really this year when I thought he just completely fell apart. I mean, he is so a far cry from the quarterback he was in 2018. I mean, I was at that Kansas City Chiefs Rams game on that Monday night when Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff went absolutely nuts. And Jared Goff was throwing pinpoint passes that night. I don't know what happened to the guy. At some point, he got shook, and he just was never the same guy again. And so I'm really excited to get Matthew Stafford in, a guy who clearly Sean McVay will bring the best out of.
I tried. I tried so hard. Andy will tell you, I tried so hard to I wanted to like Jared Goff, and I wanted to think he's a good, he's not terrible, but I wanted to think he was good, like really good, like a franchise caliber guy that you'd want to keep around for decades. And Andy will tell you, I just couldn't get there.
Yeah.
What I think, though, is really interesting, Mace, is with the Rams, and we talked about this with Lindsey Theory a few weeks ago, the idea that at some point, if you feel like the Rams are regressing, and, I think their regression has been a little bit overstated, but, they certainly have not been back to the Super Bowl since that 2018, or 70, whichever year it was. They have not been back since.
9-7 and 12-4. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think it has been overstated, but nonetheless, they have not reached that point again. And there's been concerns about them moving backwards. We're starting to run out of people that you can put that on that aren't Sean McVay or Les Snead. Like in terms of decisions that's been made, the system being run, whatever, because
ridiculous criticism. I really do. You're in the party every year. You're getting to the dance every year. The best you can do is make the playoffs every single year and then hope for that great day. I mean, that's what happened for the Rams the first time around. They had a great day when Nicole Roby-Coleman knocked out
the
Waffle House frying pan. I mean, the best you can do is to get in there. And they're going to be in it again this year. And I was talking to somebody this week who thinks they may wind up with Von Miller as the new edge rusher. I mean, they are.
How do they do that though? Because when we had Jordan Rodriguez on, for example, it was like, I mean, she's wonderful and delivers this stuff, and she's a very optimistic person. And you guys should have her on your air as much as you possibly can.
She's great.
It was like a list of doomsday stuff. All the people that are expected to leave, some of whom are going to with Brandon Staley, and some of them they just can't afford. So where do they get the people? Or is it just if you have Aaron Donald and you have Jalen Ramsey as your bookends on defense, and you have a good quarterback in Matthew Stafford and a good offensive mind in Sean McVay, you have enough stuff to get through because they don't have any money to do anything.
Well, they've got a little bit of room under the cap. They do have some maneuverability under the cap. And they are going to lose. I mean, the two impact pieces that they're going to lose, I mean, of all the guys that are going away, Josh Reynolds and Gerald Everett and guys that are really nice players, but they're not going to retain them. The two guys that they're going to miss are Leonard Floyd, who had just a tremendous season, and John Johnson, who is a pretty state-of-the-art safety in this league.
He's very good.
Those are the guys that they need to replace. And the idea that I think what they benefit from is that guys do want to play for the Rams. Guys do want to play in Los Angeles. Guys do want to play in that brand new stadium. And guys want to play for a team that's going to compete for a Super Bowl. And it was actually Bill Barnwell who suggested Von Miller to the Rams. There is room. I mean, they are going to replace those guys. There's talk about Marvin Jones, the wide receiver from Detroit, who Matthew Stafford would really throw to again. I mean, there are going to be additions to this team, but a lot of it is going to be the defensive depth that they built up over the last few years.
It'll be interesting to see what it looks like this upcoming season.
they did get they could get another Leonard Floyd in the same way they got last year's Leonard Floyd, which is he's lying around at the end of the sort of the training. Right. There are gonna be a lot of dudes out there because a lot of teams are cutting guys.
The season before was Dante Fowler. He was considered a reclamation project before the Rams. He really had a terrific season with them.
Leonard Floyd was not hot property. The fact was that Brandon Staley had coached him in Chicago, and he remembered Leonard Floyd and said, that guy's a guy that I can coach up. I would imagine Leonard Floyd's going to wind up in I almost said San Diego, with the Chargers.
They could commute like Kawhi Leonard.
Sure. They could.
I have a feeling like it may just be a situation where you could put, any of the three of us down as an edge rusher, as long as Aaron Donald is in the middle and we get like 8 sacks.
Makes every edge rusher look good. You're absolutely right.
So Andy was texting me like we could use a music clip here.
It's late. I did not mean to send it right at that moment. We have a potential music clip.
It's my fault. I didn't load it in. The producer of this show sucks. So it's not loaded. So Andy, you're gonna have to go on.
It's okay. We wanted to get into obviously the Culture Pop podcast, which you've been doing for a while with Sue Kalinsky, and you guys have just been getting really good guests. You've been getting half vaccinated. I just noticed that.
Half.
No, that part, the live production works really well. It's just the remembering to do stuff before we start. Like thinking of it on the fly and adding. That's great.
It's no worries. But you guys have been doing a great job with that. And you've been dealing as best you can with what is apparently a contractually obligated use of Chris Morales' voice in the beginning. I assume that was the fee required in order to get him on board.
Chris started as the producer, but now, like you guys, I do all of it. Like I record it, I edit it, I add, and I just haven't gotten a chance to replace Chris Morales yet. I would never replace Chris Morales, just in case he's watching.
With the show, like when you're setting up these interviews and you and Sue are thinking about the questions you're going to ask, like what are you looking to get out of them the most? Like a particular element you want listeners to take away from the shows? Because a lot of times these guests that you have, they're doing press tours and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that you could ask them that they're being asked other places. So in terms of what you specifically want to get out of them, what usually is it?
Well, what I really want to get, and I think we're starting to do a better job of this, is get them into more of a conversational mode, as opposed to just ask a question, get an answer. The last couple, and they're going to be airing in the next couple of weeks. We're cranking out 2 of these a week. They're much more conversational. And one of the interesting things is we did them only audio for a really long time. And we never brought up people's pictures and didn't set it up the way you guys have this set up right now. And once we changed to leaving the cameras on, it became much more of a conversation. It's interesting how that works. When you see somebody, it becomes much more like a conversation. So the last few, and I think from this point forward, we're going to be able to see each other, which I think gets to a more personal level. And then I like to make them cry. That's the other thing. I like to find a way to make that guest cry.
Have you found it yet?
No.
Have you gotten anybody weeping?
No, still trying. I got a very emotional Wilson Cruz coming up, but no, technically no crying.
Well, I mean, you're getting close.
Conversation. I wanted to be smart, and I wanted to represent the other part of me. You guys know, on the air I'm, ridiculous boob. Off the air, I'm less of one. And
you're just a regular boob.
Yeah, regular, exactly. So I see a lot of movies. I watch, just about everything there is, and I love talking about film, as I have with you guys over the years, and great TV. So this is just another avenue for me to do that stuff.
We actually, I really enjoyed the recent interview that you did with Anthony Rapp. There he is right there. People can remember him from Dazed and Confused, Star Trek, all sorts of stuff. But you spent a lot of time talking about his background in musical theater.
Yes.
He's worked a lot on Broadway. He's an incredibly talented actor. Be honest, how much were you living vicariously through him over the course of talking with him, over the course of going through the research of his career? Because you would have loved to have been that Broadway guy, right?
I would have loved to play Mark Cohen on Broadway. And here's the thing about it. I'll say it now. You didn't have to be the greatest singer in the world to play Mark Cohen. Like if the high school production of Rent was going on, I could definitely play Mark Cohen. December 24th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From here on in, I shoot without a script. It's the opening line of the show. I really, there you go.
So is this voice Rent quality?
It is. It's not exactly. Although you can see I'm not awful. Like I'm very close to many of the notes.
Well, I mean, look, if you bat 350 in the major leagues, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
and you're batting 350 here.
Yeah, no, that was the scariest anthem I did. And then you walk out on a red carpet to the center of the ice, and you are there by yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got nowhere to go. The Dodger Stadium, when I sang it, you got the lyrics on a big scoreboard, so there was no chance you were going to forget anything. Here, you're just alone on the ice, and there's a lot of pressure. This was the most pressure I felt during the anthem.
I will say, like, the players look like very respectful and all that. Like they're not offended at the performance. It may be because most of them are Canadian. But look, you did it. There's 0% chance I would ever get out there to do that.
Yeah, I like a good challenge. The anthem. Well, it's weird. The only two songs I can sing are the national anthem. That's my first and Open Fire. I do that for the holidays, and I do the national anthem the rest of the year. But otherwise, I don't have a good singing voice.
So when you go to the director for the musical theater stuff, you're like, I need you to write me some material, but I can only sing 2 songs.
Well, you know what I did? In high school, they gave me My Fair Lady, which is talk singing, which is actually right in my wheelhouse.
I got to tell you that.
She nearly makes the day begin. I've grown accustomed to the tune. She's whistled night and noon. Her smiles, her frowns, her ups, her downs are second nature to me now.
The accent's transformative. It really takes you places.
This is bonus material. You're not going to get this anywhere else.
No, I will say that I am the last person to make fun of anybody for the accent they use in a high school musical. Because Andy, as correctly points out, we did cabaret in high school, which in and of itself is a separate conversation about like a very risque musical to do in high school.
Yeah.
But I played one of the Nazis. Irony. But I played one of the Nazis, and I tried to do a German accent. And I think in the history of even high school stage, there has never been a less successful attempt to do accent work than me with my German accent. It was
totally
awful. Oh, that would Colonel Klink would have been like aspirational. Like that would have been great. It was awful.
I'm telling you, cabaret in high school, that is a really, really out there musical for high school.
We even cut out some stuff. There's it was really risque, but like we did, like we cut out the abortion stuff, which is a part of it. But even then, it's still like, in hindsight, I'm not sure it was appropriate. But it's
crazy.
High school girls in a cabaret.
Yeah.
But you're right. Told me afterwards.
You're right about Anthony Rapp. I was absolutely living vicariously through him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just really, really talented. But just that life is what I picture you picturing, like the alternate universe Steve Mason, like the Earth 2 version of Steve Mason, because you lived in New York for a while. I know you saw tons of shows.
Yep. I was, and little known fact, I was accepted to Yale Drama School.
I did not know that.
Yeah, accepted to Yale Drama School, and Mom and Dad said, you've got a full scholarship at Bowling Green State University. That's where you're going. But I wonder what that life would have been like had I gone to Yale Drama School and pursued that.
I mean, think how good your performance
was. As a candlemaker or a?
I was up for the role of candlemaker. Yeah.
I mean, just think how more nuanced your role in your performance in Little Devil would have been if you had that Yale training.
Performance, yes, would have been would have dialed that back just a little bit. little over the top.
We want to actually also
you look at it 2 years later, and you're like, God, that was so awful. Like, what was I thinking 4 years ago when I did that project? It's terrible now.
Don't ever look back.
I wrote screenplays that I would write a screenplay, and then 2 years later, I'd go back and look at it. I'd be like, what the hell was I thinking? This is absolutely awful. Because I guess you're just always growing and changing and judging yourself. I think those
for the few people who haven't seen it, Little Devil was a short film that Mace wrote, produced, and starred as Lee Atwater, correct?
Yeah, Lee Atwater, who was a really rough right-wing political strategy guy back in the George H.W. Bush era.
Was he the Willie Horton guy?
He was the Willie Horton guy, exactly. He's the one that created the Willie Horton ad that really torpedoed Michael Dukakis's campaign against
that in the tank.
What's that?
That in the tank moment.
That in the tank moment. Yeah, him wearing a tank.
There he is.
Didn't look presidential at that point. Yeah, but so that was a short film. That's another phase I went through. The short film phase. I made like 3 of them, and then I'm like, I would never make another short film ever, under any circumstance. I have no interest.
When you say you made them, were you the driving force behind them, or were you happening to just act in a bunch of them?
No, I was the driving force behind them.
I didn't know that. What were the other ones?
Only the one.
One was called It's Over, and it actually starred Juan, who is an actor and was kind of a surreal David Lynch kind of vibe. I produced that, and the other one was about 2 senior citizens who knew more about sex than their kids, and were more adventurous about it than their kids. And that was called Nothing Lately. So I made 3 short films, and I would never go back and do it again. It was a great experience. I loved doing it when I did it, but I'm like, I couldn't go back and do that.
Okay, gun to your head. You have to pick one phase to go back to. Rubens,
Yep.
candle making,
Yeah.
painting, or short films.
One. I would choose.
I
would choose candle making. Candle making really. I didn't get enough time making candles. 6 months. I only made it through one holiday season, so they could have all used candles for another Christmas.
That one season, Mace, where your whole family got both the candles and the chestnuts roasting over an open fire. What a holiday treat for them.
It really was a special Christmas.
Well, the artisanal candle making, the artisanal candle area is quite crowded now. So
it's crowded.
You probably got out at the right time.
Competing with Big Candle, and Candle really. I mean, they've got a monopoly on things, so it's hard for an up-and-coming candle maker to actually break in.
Hey, you beat big theaters. You could beat Big Candle.
Theater, exactly.
You have spent an inordinate amount of time, which Andy and I love, on with Culture Pop on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah,
a lot of guests from that universe.
Yep.
Which is the better show, do you think?
Such a tough question.
It's harder than I think a lot of people recognize. I continue your response, but I think it is much closer than a lot of people think. Yeah, than a lot of people actually give credit.
You know, Better Call Saul is more subtle than Breaking Bad. You know, his character he's Breaking Bad a lot more slowly than Brian's character did, than Walter did in Breaking Bad. That felt like that went a lot faster. I mean, Jimmy is slowly breaking bad, and he's not even breaking that bad. I guess it's Breaking Bad because the universe was established by Breaking Bad. But I'll tell you, Better Call Saul is just a hell of a good show. People who aren't watching it should. Bob Odenkirk's performance is fantastic.
I feel like, I think Breaking Bad ultimately is going to be remembered as the bigger achievement. I think it's going to end up with more sort of juice in the world of pop culture and the world of television history. Yep. But I think you can make an argument that Better Call Saul is the more impressive achievement. Because remember when that show got announced, the overarching reaction was, seriously? Like, really?
Gonna do
Like
that.
yeah, I mean, I think most people thought it was going to be a bad idea, that it wouldn't work. Like the idea of centering this around Bob Odenkirk, who, he was funny on Breaking Bad, but didn't seem like a lead character. And also, too, the expectations were so much greater and, they were in place, as opposed to like when Breaking Bad, people forget that show did not begin as a hit.
No.
And it actually benefited from that writer's strike.
Yeah, Tom Schnoz, who is the executive producer of Better Call Saul and did the podcast, says that when they first started figuring out how to do Better Call Saul, it started out as a half-hour comedy. That's how different, how radically different it could have been.
See, like that, I think would have been a disaster. I think that's what people were expecting, I think, and that would have been bad.
Yeah, they get a subtle, textured, rich performances. I mean, across the board in Better Call Saul. But the universe is established by Breaking Bad, and Walter White still becomes the great, anti-hero in the history of television. So you've got to give Breaking Bad its due.
You guys are both better at this, at remembering the context. Was this I know there's always like, oh, I'm interested in like a spinoff of this guy or spinoff of that guy. Was this a sequel or a spinoff or whatever, like however you want to categorize it, that people were asking for?
No,
I don't think so. I think people saw Breaking Bad as a perfect 7 seasons or whatever. Well, I think it was 7 seasons. And I think there's always a fear to go back and to somehow do something that is going to hurt the original or hurt the way the original is viewed. So no, this was a sequel that nobody was asking for. Technically it's a prequel.
Right.
So actually leading up to the beginning of Breaking Bad, but no, nobody was asking for it. And it's not nearly as big a hit as Breaking Bad was. Breaking Bad became, a total phenomenon. If Better Call Saul ever went on Netflix, which is what happened with Breaking Bad, that might change the dynamic a lot, because a lot of people, when it goes to Netflix, all of a sudden catch up on it really fast.
Well, it's more challenging though. Like for you as a viewer, Better Call Saul is a more challenging show. Like it requires more patience. Like you said, it moves slower. It doesn't have like the type of action set pieces that we saw, especially as Breaking Bad went along. Like the characters aren't quite as big, even though there's some crossover. Gustavo Fring is in there. The cousins are in there. But it's a very different show that I think requires patience in a way that Breaking Bad doesn't. But also too, the amount of content and TV that is available at the time of Breaking Bad versus Better Call Saul now, you're taking more risks asking audience for that type of patience. Like things have to click, I think, pretty quickly to enter the zeitgeist the way it did for Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's funny. It happens 2 ways, right? There's the crazy sensation, which there are still breakouts, like Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
Crazy. Everybody watched Queen's Gambit almost all at the same time. Did you guys watch it?
I did. Yeah. But it's different than what's different about this is, there's a difference between streamers where you can watch the entire season. I binge watched Queen's Gambit in a weekend versus the communal shows like, Game of Thrones was something that stopped the internet every Sunday, right, on HBO. And, Breaking Bad did the same thing. There aren't many of those. Mandalorian did it to some degree. She drops on Disney Plus. WandaVision is doing it to some degree. But there aren't a lot of those. I mean, I think the closest thing to that right now of shows that are running, I guess you could say WandaVision or maybe Succession. But none of them are as big as Breaking Bad or
Succession. For me, I always watch Succession the night it comes out, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that might be the closest thing. And that show has picked up a lot of steam in the last couple of years.
But it's still not Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad at its peak. Like, I don't think that exists anymore. I don't think that will. I think we're too fractured.
The only place that exists, honestly, that communal experience now is sports. You watch Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You watch Game 6 of the World Series. I mean, it's not everybody, but it's certainly everybody in our world is watching it at the same time and talking about it afterwards, which is what keeps me in business.
I'll tell you, as you had just mentioned Succession.
Yeah.
I am I'm pretty fascinated with this in general, but with Succession in particular, the idea of how content, how different shows, movies, whatever, address the pandemic and what we just lived through and like how much of that is going to be a thing. And Succession feels like a show that has to on some level, because you're talking about it's a show that's built around a global empire, and in particular, global news.
I think they're going to do it for
theme
10
parks.
I don't think we want to see these
I'm not
characters in masks.
No, I don't mean like we need to see them all socially. First of all, the Roys don't social distance. The Roys don't care about keeping other people healthy. They're indifferent to that. But I just mean like the idea that this happened. Because in particular, this would be something that affected them.
They've got theme parks, they've got networks, they've got
exactly. Like, and they're such good writers that because I think addressing the pandemic could be an incredibly hokey thing, an incredibly heavy-handed, very poorly executed thing for a lot of shows. But they're so good at what they do. Like, they give me a lot of hope for how they're going to do it, because again, I don't see how you
ignore it. Yeah,
I think you can ignore it. I do. I see shows on TV, cop shows where they're wearing masks, and not Reno 911, whatever those 911.
Oh, it's
like 911 Dallas 911.
Yeah, there's one of them as Rob Lowe.
One of them is Rob Lowe. They're all wearing masks. And there's one about a hospital, Amsterdam hospital. They're all wearing masks. It's like, honestly, when I'm watching,
that's a hospital, Steve. That's just good practice.
No, but I mean, that's pandemic style.
Oh, okay.
Style. But when I'm watching TV, I don't think I'm looking to be reminded of how shitty the world is. Like, I'm looking for an escape. So I would love to see a high-end adult show like Succession. Just play it out like there was no pandemic.
You remember at the very beginning of this, because it's been a year, you go back to the beginning, like everybody in the first week was like, I'm going to watch Contagion on Netflix or whatever it is. And I think that's when we all thought, like, in a month we'd be able to leave our houses again. And then by like the second or third month, and everybody kind of started to understand where this is like, no. And like the Michael Bay movie, and granted, it might just have tanked because it's Michael Bay and wasn't very good. What was it called? Like Songbird or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was like doom porn for this. And it's like year 4 of the pandemic, and you can't leave your house without they'll kill you. Like that, 8 people watched that because nobody wanted to see it. So to your point, it's interesting. Like, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, most shows that are shooting, and a lot of them are shooting still. I just talked to somebody from the Goldberg show, and they're shooting, socially distanced and, really careful. But the characters are not in a pandemic. The characters are in a regular non-pandemic world, and I think that's what I want out of TV now. I don't want to see, I don't want to watch a show where everybody is constantly reminding me that there's a global pandemic on our hands.
Oh, absolutely. I think 95% or more of the shows out there, movies out there, should not attempt it because it won't work well. Just Succession is the one that I'm specifically curious about, just because it feels topical and they're so good. The last thing I wanted to ask you about, you guys on
last thing from me.
Last thing
I wish I could roll my chair backwards. You guys recently did an interview with Glenn Turman. Folks may remember him from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Wire, been in a zillion theatrical productions. I didn't realize until listening to your show, and it's a really good interview, just how long he's been doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been around, as you pointed out, like he did theater with Sidney Poitier when he was a kid.
Yeah.
But he's in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Chadwick Boseman, I think right now, is considered the front runner rightly to win Best Actor for his performance in Ma Rainey. I mean, it's just
he's going to win Best Actor.
Yeah, it's an amazing performance, and also given the context of his death, I'm curious how you think this performance is going to be sort of remembered in the lexicon of Oscar-winning performances, just because of that context of his death. And we've seen the way it resonated with like Heath Ledger when he won for that. But also more broadly, too, how you think sort of this year and the movies that are involved with awards season, how they're going to resonate and be remembered, because it was such a weird year for movies and content consumption in general. Like it's hard to know exactly like what actually hit with audiences.
Yeah, it's really hard to know. I mean, honestly, I made a list of my 10 favorite movies of the year and I put it on Instagram, and the average reaction was, I've not seen any of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People, it's so scattershot right now, and it's so fragmented where you can get this movie and where you can get that movie, that I don't think people are, you needed stuff like, and again, they were terribly rated Golden Globes, and they were technically just a disaster. So movies didn't even get propped up by that. But you find a movie like Nomadland on Hulu, which is fantastic.
It's very good.
Which is on Netflix. Prime has got Sound of Metal. But again, there's no like unifying. Normally we would have theaters. You'd see it in a theater, and then it would wind up streaming somewhere. Now they just wind up on this bunch of different streaming networks, and nobody's got a way to keep track of what's where. And so I think people are seeing fewer and fewer of them. I think this year the Academy Awards could be helpful, because I mean, I would hope that everybody saw the speech that Chadwick Boseman's widow gave. It was on social media and people. It was a beautiful speech. I hope people go and look at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom because of that, because it's an unbelievable performance for Chadwick.
It's so good. Yeah,
it is career crowning.
I will say, to your point that you were making, if I saw you in 2020, you make my top 10 list. Definitionally.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. People, and I think people have been more hung up on television than they are.
Correct.
Way more people are catching up on Schitt's Creek than are watching Nomadland right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in Schitt's Creek, in a weird sort of sick way, benefited from the pandemic. I think because of people being cooped up in their house, but also people wanting something feel good. Like I feel like Ted Lasso has benefited from that.
Ted Lasso has been exactly that. It's been like comfort food. So is Schitt's Creek. There's a show I'm watching right now called Kim's Convenience. It's on Netflix. It's about a Korean family that owns a bodega in Toronto, and it has very much that Schitt's Creek vibe. But I think we're all looking for something that's more upbeat, that's got more heart. And in a lot of ways, I think, Tiger King, everybody talked about. Schitt's Creek, I think, is going to be one of the shows of the pandemic, because it feels like everybody watched it during the course of the last year.
Yeah,
but it didn't feel like anybody was watching it though before. Like I don't think I've ever seen a show become such a massive thing, basically at its endpoint. Like I can't think of an example like that.
Yeah, no, it was, and because it was on Netflix, and because it was the ultimate word of mouth project, because I had never seen an episode, started it, and then finished it within 3 weeks. It was like that kind of show, that kind of good. So yeah, I mean, I'll remember that as one of the shows that really stuck out during the pandemic time. By the way, 1 year, as of next Friday the 12th, 1 year, me and Ireland we will not have seen each other in a full year.
It's Ireland calls it his best 365 days.
He's having a blast. Best year ever.
John's doing the opposite of you. He's standing at the Rite Aid going, "You don't need that vaccine.
You don't need that.
Let's work remotely for a little while longer."
I wish I golfed. John had the advantage of golfing during all this, and I don't golf. It's a chance to get outside. I never learned, and never, growing up, we never had I hated the kids that went to the country club on the weekends. It's like, screw you. I'm going to go play racquetball for free. You go ahead and play golf.
You sure got your revenge on them with those Ramley seats. Those new seats you got in SoFi, my friend.
That's right. That's right.
Think of all the artisanal candles those people aren't getting this holiday season.
Can you imagine?
All right, Steve Mason, you know him from the Mason and Ireland show, 710 ESPN. Still, what, 3 to 7?
We're back to 4.
1 to 4.
A moving target.
Yeah, everything there is. You know, this person's on that show. Scott Kaplan's there. All kinds of things are.
Find us.
Yeah. Culture Pop Podcast, which you get everywhere you get podcasts. Download that. Really, really great interviews that Steve's been getting. Fantastic lineup of guests they've had late. They, being you and Sue, have had lately. He's a painter, he is a singer, and he is half vaccinated. Thanks for doing this, man. We appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Love doing it. Glad you guys are doing well, and happy to come back anytime as long as you do it before 7 o'clock.
Right, like an old. You're like a golden girl.
Yeah. If a golden girl smoked weed right at 7 o'clock, I would say.
Yeah, we had a hard out.
The hard out.
Yeah, Steve gave us a time that he was not going to go past.
Nope.
So he was our first West Coast early taper, like he was like a 70-year-old going to the soup plantation or something. He had to be out, but that was fun. I learned a lot about Steve that I did not know. Legit did not know, and we've known Steve for what, 15 years now at this point.
Like that, 15 years, and we've worked with him like quite a while. We both consider him a friend of ours. Like, this is stuff I had no idea about. Yale drama school. Like,
nope, didn't know.
I mean, he knows I'm a theater major. Like, I would figure at some point.
Look, I mean, the idea that Mason, I feel like Mason lives drama school. I did not know he was admitted to one. There's a difference.
No, who knew?
This is fun. So yeah, if you are interested, you can probably hit him up at Venice Mace on Twitter or Instagram and see if you can buy those paintings. Or some Frank Thomas rookie cards, which he also has for sale. Good stuff coming up next week. Comedian Mike Malloy. We're going to take advantage of the All-Star break and try to do a few other things. Comedian Mike Malloy is going to join us on Monday. We've got a really cool guest on Tuesday, a muralist by the name of Robert Vargas. He just put up a new Kobe mural on the West Side, and he's done a bunch of them around the city. And so mural culture is something that's become obviously really kind of been focused on a lot. And I'm excited to talk to somebody who actually does these.
You and I both live near a few Kobe murals. And
absolutely.
It was funny during the different periods of unrest during the summer, and when things at times got pretty unruly and stuff was getting damaged, the one thing you knew in Los Angeles was not going to get touched was a Kobe mural.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was true. Going to be left alone. That would have been honestly taking your life into very dangerous hands if you attempted to bother one of those murals.
So Robert Vargas is going to join us on Tuesday. We'll talk to him and bring you that conversation. And then Wednesday, Andy, we are going to do something that we've never done before. We've had 2 people on. So we've gone quad box a few times now. We've gone quad box. How many people are coming on with us on Wednesday?
8 max, maybe fewer, but 8 max, because the platform does not allow for more than 10, and the 2 of us have to be there. So it's going to be 8.
Are we going octobox at the least?
At minimum, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It could be what's 10 box? Deco box?
Deco box. We'll call it Deco box. Sure.
We're going Deco box. Like, I don't even know what that looks like. It's gonna be crazy.
It's what it is. It's the Brady Bunch +1.
Yep, it's the Lauer After Hours, guys. If you've not seen this podcast, it's a lot of fun. If you happen to be a fan of the Dan Le Batard show, you've probably seen a little bit of it. Which we both are for sure. We went on their show. It was a ton of fun. So we're looking forward to trying something absolutely wackadoodle, as they say.
It could be a complete shit show.
It might be. But hey, we'll give it a try. And Jordan Liggins and Haley O'Shaughnessy, who are both great on the NBA, and they're going to join us on Friday. They have a new podcast to promote as well. So we'll do that next week. And then appreciate everybody's comments on the chat tonight about the show. And we'll keep everybody updated what's going on. We'll see everybody next week.
Dank je, Nederland.